Ah, what a beautiful morning. The VMUs are chirping, the hedgehogs are mating. I bet everyone loved my video talking about how great the Dreamcast controller is. You know, there's not a single person on this planet that could not think that this is like one of the best controllers ever. I can't wait to see all the comments. You know what? I should write an apology. Dear viewers who disagreed with my opinion on the Dreamcast controller, I'm sorry that you are all so wrong. God damn it. God shit. Pieces of shit. Ah! Hey, I'm Ty. So after my last video, I realized that while there's a lot of people who think that the Dreamcast controller is absolutely amazing, there's also a lot of people that don't much care for it, which I did not expect. I mean, I guess I should have. I will stand by every single point that I made in that video though. This thing was and is amazing. But there's something new that caught my attention, and it blew my mind when I realized what it was capable of, and for one reason in particular. In my video about the Dreamcast controller, I made a big point about how most games before 2002 did not utilize dual analog sticks the way we use them today, which is absolutely true. But what if I told you there's a way to use any modern controller with your Dreamcast and it adds a second analog stick support? I feel like I unlocked a secret code to utilizing modern controls on games that are almost 25 years old without having to mod the game at all on original hardware. So while this may be my favorite Dreamcast controller, maybe this is yours, or this, hell, or even this. So this is a device based on Blueretro, and it allows you to use your modern controllers on original hardware. And it does that and so much more. So in this video, I will explain how to get one of these, how to set it up, configure it, show you which game settings you need, and some bonus features that I think you can use. But first, let me take a second to explain where this technology came from. Because while this is made for the Dreamcast specifically, the hardware and software that this uses can connect modern controllers to anything from the Atari 2600, Virtual Boy, through N64, Dreamcast, PS2, even JAMA arcade boards. So Blueretro is the creation of Jacques Gagnon, who goes by the name Darthcloud online. Blueretro emerged back in 2020, and he started the project to create a platform that connected modern Bluetooth controllers to nearly every single legacy platform. It's been expanding and growing over the years with some truly amazing applications. It's all open source, and the community's been adding new features constantly. This video actually took a little bit extra time because there were updates being pushed while I was producing this that I wanted to include. There are now dozens of commercially available dongles and other implementations. Some of them are even DIY internalized modifications, which I'll get to later on in the video. But this is what we're here for. This is one solution for the Dreamcast that utilizes Blueretro. And the best part of this is that it's cheap, like 15 to 25 bucks, depending where you buy it. And I have links in the description. When plugged in, it allows you to connect Xbox One, Xbox Series, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Wii, Wii U, 8-bit Do, Retrobit to your Dreamcast, also PS3. It also even allows you to connect a wide variety of Bluetooth keyboards and mice to your Dreamcast. It pairs just like any standard Bluetooth device, and it has a robust software configuration that allows you to remap and reconfigure everything about your input and how the Dreamcast reads it. If that wasn't enough, it natively supports the Dreamcast Jump Pack Rumble feature, and as of like last week, VMU save support. Okay, let's get into how to set this thing up. First thing you want to do, plug it into your Dreamcast, turn on your Dreamcast. If you just want to play your games with a modern controller, you can pair it and go from there. But for all the newer features and to utilize the second analog stick, you'll want to go into the Blueretro configuration. And to do that, you'll want to open up a web browser on a device that has Bluetooth. I use my MacBook. And the first thing that you'll want to do is update the firmware to Right now, as of this filming, it's 1.9, which was a big update. When you do that, you'll have the opportunity to throw Darthcloud a tip. Be sure to do that. Tip the guy for creating such an amazing platform that we can all use. And you'll want to get the hardware, the HW1 version of the firmware. The update should take a few minutes and it'll give you a bunch of new features, including VMU support. From there, you want to go into the advanced configuration to configure your devices, and you do it on a port by port basis, so 1 through 4. The great thing about the Dreamcast controller is the layout is very similar to modern control layout, so you don't really have to change anything if you don't want to. But while you're in here, under output config, I would change the mode to GamePad Alt and accessories to both. GamePad Alt allows you to use the right stick. Also, when you're mapping, the source label should be the controller that you're using, like an Xbox Series, and then destination label should be Dreamcast. This just helps mapping to be a lot easier. You can still plug in a real Dreamcast controller into another port and utilize a real VMU if you really want to. Also, you don't have to use all 4 of these. You can just plug in one. And there's actually a lot of games that I found that can utilize dual analog sticks on the Dreamcast natively without any modifications, just right out of the box. So I focused on 4 games in particular because the tinkering and everything, there's not really a database of how you should configure these controllers. It's kind of like a free-for-all. But the 4 games that I focused on were QUAKE 3, Unreal Tournament, Outrigger, and Soldier of Fortune. All 4, I was able to implement modern controls. It just worked, and it worked great. Every game, though, had slightly different requirements for how to configure inside the Blueretro, and in some cases inside the game, to make it work seamlessly. QUAKE 3 was my default, kind of my first and longest test, because QUAKE 3 has a built-in button remapping, so you can have any custom buttons inside the game, which made trying different things out really easy. On the Blueretro, the only thing that I had to change was I dropped the threshold of the right stick down to 25%. And then played with the mouse sensitivity inside of QUAKE. And you also might want to play with the dead zones. Like I said, there's a lot of tinkering. Unreal Tournament was a little bit more complicated because there was no default way to map the controls the way I wanted to. So what I had to do was I had to set up controller configuration 2. It actually made the look on both sticks, and then the walking movement was on the face buttons. So what I did was I went into Blueretro configuration and remapped the left stick to act as the face buttons, which worked great. So the one thing is you have to navigate with the D-pad, otherwise you're hitting face buttons. Similarly with Soldier of Fortune, I had to do the same thing, but then I also had to map the right stick to be the left stick because the left stick was mapped to look. And so I mapped the face buttons to the left stick, and I mapped the left stick to the right stick. Like, it's a little bit of a pain to do that, but it worked, and it worked great, and I had a blast with it. It's crazy playing these games from, the late 90s with dual analog sticks. It blows my mind. It's like finding out the GoldenEye dual stick thing now. Outrigger didn't need really any modifications to the Blueretro config, but I would remap the fire button from whatever face button it is to the trigger, because none of the configurations actually map the fire to a trigger. And so you always end up having to hit a face button. Getting through all that, the one thing is, like with the games like Sonic Adventure, this isn't going to add a free look camera because it never had that to begin with. But it's crazy. These old games have modern controls. All you have to do is connect a modern controller with a $15 dongle and tweak a little bit. I looked up all the games that looked like it could either have twin stick support or mouse and keyboard support. I challenge you, test these games with me, and let's see which other games we can add value to. So the games with twin stick support: Cosmic Smash, the unreleased version of Half-Life on the Dreamcast, Heavy Metal Geomatrix, Rez. I don't know what we could do with Rez. Star Wars Demolition, I think that might have a free look camera. Virtua Tennis has twin stick support. Virtual On, obviously, and Xenocrisis. That's actually a new release game, and there may be other games as well. Leave a comment if you found a game that can utilize the dual analog sticks or some other feature from Blueretro into a pre-existing game. I'll add it to a pinned comment. The other thing is that you can use the standard Bluetooth keyboard and Bluetooth mouse to emulate the keyboard and mouse from the Dreamcast, and I got it working with Quake 3. That's all as far as I went. My mouse wanted to keep disconnecting, which was causing some issues. I think it's a battery save feature, but I got it working and it worked great. And it's just another awesome feature about this device. Also, typing of the dead. If you don't have the Dreamcast keyboard, you can use this to use your Bluetooth keyboard. This thing is so versatile. It seems like most of the devices that utilize this are, PS1, N64, Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube. There are commercial versions of these types of dongles or individual dongles for all those consoles. And there's great documentation on how to basically build your own. There's also a modular version of this where you can just screw in different connectors for different devices. This thing gets the job done. It's not the prettiest, and I don't love the way when you plug everything in, it just kind of hangs there limply. I like my accessories firm. One of the coolest applications I've seen is from Laser Bear Industries, and they made an internalized Blueretro device that replaces the inputs for GameCube. It's amazing. It adds LEDs, allows you to connect regular GameCube controllers, Wavebirds, but also you can pair with a Bluetooth controller port by port. Macho Nacho Productions put out a great in-depth video detailing all the features. Recommend checking that out. And I was talking to Darthcloud, and they're definitely in the workings to build the same thing for the Dreamcast, but there's no updates on when that's going to come out. Yeah, the other thing when I was talking to Darthcloud is he was sharing some other applications specifically for Dreamcast. Humble Bazooka is making little dongles that stick inside each controller port. I'll put links to the history of Blueretro, the GitHub page. Be sure to check all that out and follow Darthcloud on social media. Give him a thank you for creating such an amazing platform. So what do you think? What's the first game that you have been wanting to play with modern controls on the Dreamcast? This Blueretro device makes it possible. Let me know in the comments. Share this video. Post it in your Facebook groups. Come join the Discord. We have a blast. We're doing a Secret Santa. Have a good night, and I will see you soon. Cheers.